Hi, welcome to Tack Talk. I'm Todd Martin. I figured we'd do another little video on the cavison, mouth shutter, or the nose band, or whatever you want to call it. I like calling it cavison. So kind of just so that you can get an idea of how and why it works and the kind of the functionality of it. So if I'm going to put a cavison on, I want to make sure that if I don't have a cavison, so one of the deals is why. Why do I want to use a cavison? Reason why I want to use a cavison is I want my horse to respond to my bit and my cues, and if his mouth is gaping open, he's not responding to my cues, he's evading my cues. He's evading my cue and he's evading my bit. He's not conforming to my bit, he's evading it. So whenever I set this up, I don't necessarily have to have it super tight. I want it to kind of like drop down a little bit on his jaw, like right about there. That's like got a huge gap in it, so I'm going to take a little bit up, put it on the next hole. So about there's where I want it set up. It's got plenty of room. He can open his mouth and stuff, and it's not like he can't open his mouth or it's not trapped. But if he tries to really open his mouth up, he's going to hit that rubber part, and it's going to make it stretch, and it's going to give him his resistance. When I go to put the bridle on, I want the bridle to be able to sit in there. I don't want it to be cranked up in his mouth like that is. So I want it to be able to have a little, not necessarily so many wrinkles in this cheek or lip, but I want it to sit in there and kind of ride kind of nice. The whole deal about whenever I go to use the bit is that whenever I pull back on my reins, I'm actually giving him a cue to do something, telling him what to do. When I pull back, if he opens his mouth up, then he can evade the bit, or he can move away from it. I want that nose band or that cavison to kind of not allow for him to open and evade or get away from the pressure of the bit. His face, when I pull up on my reins, his face should conform to the bit. He shouldn't be gaping his mouth, turning his head the opposite direction. And the cavison, as you teach it, it's not something that's used as, it's a tool. It's like any of the other parts of tack that we use, they're tools. If you use it as a weapon, that's improper. If you're using it as a tool to teach, great. If you're using it all the time, if I have to use this nonstop every time, all the time, whatever else, I'm not teaching, it's just it's a crutch, right? So it's not necessarily something that we're having as a crutch or something that we're going to evade work or not teach our horse. But it's a tool that I can use to teach him how to conform. It eliminates a couple other options whenever I go to pick up and pull. It's one thing he can't do is he can't go and take his mouth and open his mouth up and gape and move away from the bridle. So it's kind of the way a cavison works. It takes and not necessarily traps the mouth shut, but it eliminates one option of opening and gaping the mouth until he learns how to properly conform to the bit. This is Tack Talk. Todd Martin. Hope that helps.